Title: Pillars of the Sun, Giza, Egypt, 2580 BCE. The Nile flowed steadily, a ribbon of life weaving through the heart of Egypt. On its western bank, a monumental task was underway, one that would define an era, a people, and a god-king's place in eternity. The Great Pyramid of Giza, envisioned by Pharaoh Khufu, was more than a tomb. It was a bridge between earth and the heavens, meant to secure his immortality. For the tens of thousands of men who toiled under the blistering sun, it was an unparalleled challenge, a feat of human ambition, ingenuity, and sacrifice. Chapter 1: The Stone Carver. Raya wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes squinting against the unforgiving sun. His hands, calloused from years of chiseling limestone, never stopped moving, shaping the massive blocks that would be used to build Khufu's great tomb. His father had been a stone carver before him, and like his father, Raya took pride in his work, knowing that every cut and mark brought the pyramid closer to completion. But he also understood the cost. Raya's brother, Thutmose, had been injured months earlier, crushed under a stone block as they dragged it up the causeway. He was one of many who had suffered. The building of the pyramid demanded more than just stone, it demanded lives. As Raya shaped the stone, he thought of his brother, now recovering in one of the nearby worker villages. There were whispers that Thutmose had seen something, a glimpse of the gods in his moments near death, something he refused to speak of. Chapter 2: The Overseer Hemeni. An overseer for the project walked the length of the pyramid's base, inspecting the progress. The construction site was a living organism. Thousands of men hauling stones, chiseling, setting ramps, and coordinating with teams of engineers. Hemeni's job was to ensure that nothing disrupted the flow of work. The pyramid's completion was not just a matter of pride, it was a matter of divine duty. Khufu, the pharaoh, was the living embodiment of Horus, the falcon god. His place in the afterlife depended on the pyramid being completed before his death. Time was of the essence, and Hemeni could not afford delays. But he knew that pushing the men too hard would lead to accidents, or worse, rebellion. Despite the stories about slaves building the pyramids, most of the workers were paid laborers and farmers, offering their services during the inundation season when the fields were underwater. Hemeni understood the gravity of what they were building, a structure that would stand for millennia, a beacon to the gods. But as he watched the workers, he couldn't shake the feeling that their suffering was just as eternal. Chapter 3: The Pharaoh's Priest. Inside the sanctuary at the pyramid's base, High Priest Intef lit incense before a statue of Ra, the sun god. He whispered prayers for guidance, for strength, and for favor upon the pharaoh. Intef had been raised in the temple since childhood, groomed to serve the gods and the king. He knew that Khufu's pyramid was not just a monument, it was a gateway to the afterlife. Every stone block, every sacred inscription, was imbued with meaning. The pyramid's alignment with the cardinal points and the stars was no accident. It was a cosmic design. The priests, like Intef, were responsible for ensuring that the pyramid's sacred geometry would guide Khufu's soul to join the gods in the afterlife. But there was more at stake than divine favor. Failure to complete the pyramid would mean more than the king's soul wandering the Duat, the land of the dead. It could mean the kingdom itself falling into chaos. Intef carried this weight as heavily as the workers carried the stones. Chapter 4: The Visionary. Deep within the palace, Khufu sat with his master architect, Imhotep the Younger. The original Imhotep had built Djoser's step pyramid generations ago, but Khufu demanded something grander, something that would surpass all that had come before. "I have seen it," Khufu said, his voice low but filled with certainty. "A pyramid, smooth and perfect, that will touch the sky. The gods themselves have shown me the way." Imhotep nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. The task was monumental, requiring coordination of tens of thousands of workers, materials transported from far-off quarries, and an unprecedented understanding of mathematics and astronomy. But Khufu was a god king, and to question him was to question the gods. Imhotep had On the plans with the precision of a scribe, calculating the angles, the ramps, and the weight of the stones. He knew that they were creating something that had never been seen before. Imhotep had drawn the plans with the precision of a scribe, calculating the angles, the ramps, and the weight of the stones. He knew that they were creating something that had never been seen before, but he also knew the cost. He had walked among the workers, had seen the injuries, the exhaustion, the quiet murmurs of discontent. But the pharaoh's will was absolute. The pyramid will stand for all time, Khufu said, and so will I. Chapter 5. The Final Stone. Years passed. The pyramid, once an ambitious dream, now towered over the desert, a gleaming monument to the gods and to human perseverance. Raya, now older and slower, stood among the crowd as the final capstone, sheathed in gold, was lifted into place. The sight took his breath away. Despite the hardships, the injuries, and the lives lost, they had built something that would outlast them all. Beside him, Hemeni stood in silence, his hands clenched in prayer. For him, it was more than just the completion of a project. It was the fulfillment of a divine promise. Somewhere in the distance, priests sang hymns, calling down the blessings of the gods upon the structure. From the royal platform, Khufu watched in quiet satisfaction. His dream had been realized. The pyramid, his eternal house, stood as a testament to his power and the ingenuity of his people. It was more than a tomb. It was a message to the universe that Egypt and her kings would never be forgotten. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert, the pyramid of Khufu glowed with an otherworldly light, its stones whispering of eternity, of the lives given in its making, and the king it was meant to preserve. Epilogue: The Pyramid and the Stars. Thousands of years later, the pyramid still stands, a silent witness to the ages. But if you listen closely, beneath the weight of its stones, you can still hear the voices of those who built it, the dreamers, the laborers, the priests, and the pharaoh, all seeking eternity beneath the gaze of the stars.